Tonight we have Kenny Wallace. Kenny Wallace is a local person in Cast Isle, and many of you know him. He's going to be talking about geocaching, and Kenny's been very enthusiastic and got into it a few years ago, and he's one of the ones that puts a lot of the caches in the park here, and I could tell you a little bit about it, but Kenny's going to really tell you a lot about it, so I'll turn it over to Kenny Wallace.
Tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about geocaching, and it's been a passion of mine since 2006. I joined Geocaching.com, which is the official website. I think my first find was April 29th, 2006, right here in Letchworth Park, of course. When I got on the website, I was fascinated to think there was objects hidden around that you could find with something like a GPS. This is a handheld GPS, and I'll refer to this from time to time. But I went with a friend. My wife did not want this to happen because she knows my addictive personality, and once I do something I like, I don't quit. So I'm still going at it, and one of the fun parts that I learned from finding geocaches was I got to explore Letchworth Park in a whole new way. And tonight's focus is about finding Letchworth Park, secret places that you might never have an opportunity or a reason to go to. And if you decide to explore the park with geocaching, you'll see some amazing places. My geocaches that I like to put out, they're theme-based, most of them. And my wife has an account, and I put out all the geocaches under her name. I put out quite a few under my name. So we've got a lot of geocaches between her and I. And you'll hear the word Wallace. Does anybody know what that means? Whose name is that? John. Very good. I can rely on John for all the answers because he's like that kid in the back seat that's really annoying. Anyway, but we love him. You know, that's why we have him here. So I put these caches out, and what I like to do is I like to take you on an adventure, and we're going to go on a geocache tonight in this PowerPoint presentation. I've never done a PowerPoint presentation in my life. It's not my style. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I like to do things right in front of you. I like to show you things, but this is a little different approach. And thanks to the good people at Geocaching.com, they have a wonderful PowerPoint that you can download yourself, and it helps you to learn about geocaching. Now, who here has never geocached in their life? Okay, there are two types of people in the world. There are geocachers and there are muggles. You non-geocachers are muggles. So tonight, hopefully, we'll turn you into geocachers because you're going to go on an actual geocache. You might not see exactly how things are hidden, but you're going to see the area where they are, because I can't spoil all the fun. But half the fun of geocaching is going and trying to outsmart the hider. One of my most favorite things is to outsmart this guy right here. He's an old-time geocacher. He's had several handles, some things we call sock puppets. Those are different names that you could have under the same person. And I've always tried to strive to make the hide difficult enough where he couldn't find it. So that's one of the fun things that we do. Now, at any time, if anybody has a question, don't be afraid to just raise your hand and stop me a little bit and say, hey, I'm wondering about such and such. Because while you're thinking about it, we want to address it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the PowerPoint presentation, and that's quite a view there. Does everybody recognize that one view? Could you go back one bit, Art? Not everybody but John. Who knows what that is? Stephanie, what is that scene?
The view over Degayoso Creek from the east side of the park.
That's right, Degayoso Creek. That bridge right there is the third bridge. Now, if you do a cache here in Letchworth Park, now I have some cache sheets here. We're going to talk about these things. These are what you download off the internet. Very helpful to bring them with you because there's information on there that's valuable for finding the cache. Not just the coordinates, but there's things that may help you have clues. So there's a cache that I have here called Degayoso Creek. And I if you read the cache page, you're going to see 3 different views of that bridge. It originally started out as a wooden bridge. Now I'm going to try to get my names here proper. So that requires reading and glasses, because I can't do anything without them. Okay. Let's see. I'll let Art sort through these here, if you would, and find me Degasso Creek. It's quite fascinating because when Mr. Letchworth came here, this was his property right here. And he had a gate at the top. Wasn't it just past the bridge, Stephanie? Yeah. As you crossed the bridge, then there was the gate to Lauterbrunnen. Is that how they say it? That was his name. It was the state. Of course, it was Glen Iris was his home. And he didn't feel that that bridge was very safe. So he paid out of his own pocket to have an iron bridge put in. If you go on this geocache page, you can click on pictures and see actual pictures of some of these things. Now this bridge has had, this creek has had different names. It was called Erickson's Brook originally. But Mr. Letchworth was very big in giving creeks and features Seneca Indian names. So he named this Degasso, which means nameless spirit. It's kind of a romantic name for a stream of water. And as you see it cascading down there, it does remind you of the spirits. So I like those facts. But you learn these things through a geocache, and you get to visit a spot, and you try to find something that's hidden in that area. Now let's see. I can't quite see the geocache from here because this was taken from the east side of the park. Has anyone ever hiked on the east side and seen the trail? It's a beautiful area over there. Well, you can look across and see Degasso Creek and this bridge. So that's why I used this for a background, because I thought it would just look really comfortable to look at that picture, because you're going to see a lot more of it. So let's get started with geocaching. This is a kind of a cut and dried format. I want to take you through a little bit. I'll put my twist on it, and what we're going to do is we're going to define some things. What is geocaching? Does anybody here really know what it is? That's just using what it says here. It's a high-tech treasure hunting game. This is played all over the entire world. I think there's geocaches on every continent except Antarctica, and I do believe there's probably some guy down there stationed that's got a couple of them. And there's even a geocache on one of these on the space station. Wasn't there one? Yes. So this game is big. There's no place that they don't hide a geocache. So the basic idea is to locate some hidden containers called caches, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So who can do this? I'm looking around the room. I'm trying to see if I can see anybody that can. No, you can all do it. This is open for everybody, and we do see a lot of retired folks doing this and enjoying this immensely. We have a lady that's a local geocacher from Batavia area. I'm not sure what her number is, but she goes by the name Gadget. And if you ever saw her, she wears a vest loaded with every gadget known to man to get into something or to solve something, to fix something. And she's a wonderful lady, and she's probably found over 20,000 geocaches. She's got a big old van, big old gas hog. She drives it anywhere there's a geocache. And she is just a riot. She puts her kayak in there, she puts her bicycle in there. And this is a 70-year-old woman, plus, that has unlimited amount of energy. And one of the things we all laugh about that has ever known Gadget is she don't give up. If she can't find it, she's going to call you up if she sees that you found it and try to get clues out of you. So that's kind of common, that if you decide to give a clue or not. So what do you need? Well, it's really inexpensive for the enjoyment you get out of it. You just get yourself a GPS, or you could use your phone with an app on it. I think I have a slide here that shows that you can get an app just for your cell phone or your pad, and you can use that. I don't recommend that as much as a handheld GPS like what you see here, because this is really designed for going out in the woods. You know, you might go down in a canyon. The satellite reception can be really kind of faint in certain areas. But this type of GPS here, this is made by Garmin. It's one of the workhorses of the business. If you really want to get serious, you can get these pretty reasonably priced. I think now they're only around a couple $100, to get this basic unit. Before they were $535. My wife wasn't thrilled when I bought this because I kind of explained to her I was looking on Amazon.com, and I forgot that I had this one-click shopping button. I thought I was just going to review the project or the picture and see how much it would cost, and all of a sudden it said, congratulations on your purchase. Well, I didn't want to cancel the order, of course. I really did want it. So I've had this probably for 4 years. I've found hundreds of geocaches with it. I've fallen down, dropped it. It's been underwater, and it works just as good as the day it's new. It shows a little wear, but that's what happens. And then what you need to do is have some sort of internet access. Everybody here have access to a computer? Anybody doesn't have access? I mean, not right here at home. Everybody's got access. John doesn't have access. Okay. He would be dangerous if he got on a computer, so we don't let him have access. Anyway, all you need is that computer or a mobile device, because this is where you're going to go to find information that you need to put in your GPS, when we're talking coordinates, to go out and find them. Now you can join the geocaching.com site free. You don't have to pay a penny. And you get basic information. It's great. But I highly recommend, after you've tried it for a while, give it a little chance to see if this is for you. If you don't like it, well, don't geocache, you know. Maybe just do it randomly from now and then. But I would say a premium membership is worth the cost. It's $30 for a year. It's really kind of cheap when you break it down, less than $3 a month for what information you're going to get. Here we go. Now, what we've done here is we've got a page showing. And this would be a map page of Letchworth Park showing geocaches. Now, you see there's like these little containers here. That's probably a traditional. If you see a double container, well, there might be 2 caches here, I'm not sure, but usually that's a double container. That means that that's a multi-cache. We're going to talk a little bit about those cache types as this goes on. The smileys you see there, well, geocachers are funny people because they start out innocent and they end up being after nothing but a smiley. They want that smiley. They got to get that smiley because that's a number. And geocaching.com will keep track of your numbers for you. How many caches you found, what types, and all that when you log it. You see a question mark up here? Right there? That's a mystery cache. And we're going to talk about those. Wallace is famous for mystery caches. She's a tricky girl. She likes to have you work your way into the cache to get coordinates, just to get started. Sometimes you go to a place and you figure the coordinates there, which is most of the time with hers. But this is a map of our area, the south end of Letchworth, and you can kind of see that there's a lot of geocaches right around here, isn't there? You know, you probably didn't realize all of these hidden objects. And you see both sides of the Genesee River. You know, there's some on the east side, River Road, and that goes up through, and you can see it borders Letchworth Park. There's some hidden way out in the middle of nowhere there. Those are nice long hikes. But as you look around, you can see local townships. And that's a map you might see. Now, when you go on the website, you can click on any one of those objects you see, and it'll bring out what it is, the name of the cache. And you can click on that, and then you can go there on that page, and you can get information. A cache page, let's see. Do we have, how about spinning world giants? I'm going to pass a cache page around for you to look at. I'm going to pass that back. This is a typical cache page, and what we'll do is we'll break it down a little bit. When you do see a cache page, what are you seeing? Well, there's all kinds of good information there, like you need to know how difficult is this. Okay, this is your first time out. Do I want to go for a difficulty 4, terrain 3? No, because that would be all by itself a tough thing just to do the terrain part. So you might want to look at this and kind of gauge it as far as your experience goes in geocaching. You know, maybe work your way up slow, find a few of the easier ones. There'll be a difficulty of 1, 1.5, 2. Those are pretty good to find. Terrain is something you want to look at because it might mean that you're going to be going up a hill or slope, hiking through the woods, bushwhacking, all kinds of things you can do when you're geocaching. And you might not be on a trail other than a deer path. Sometimes there's lots of trails there in Letchworth. Some are put down by humans and some are put down by animals. Geocachers like to follow the animal trails because those go to really cool places. that you normally wouldn't see.
And when you go in, you have a map like of the US, and you expand it, and then find the county you're in? and
You
things like
can do that. What people do is, you can go to the park gate and get a map of the park, and it'll show you all the trails. But look at your GPS, there's a map feature on there. Okay, as you get near, it starts to count down. Okay, you might start out at the gate of the park and you'd be like maybe, I'd say 0.45 miles from it. So that's less than half a mile. Well, I try to tell people the direct route is not always the best route. You might want to take a little longer walk on a trail to get to where you're going instead of going down in a deep ravine, back up the other side to get there. A lot of geocachers put tricky hides out to make you think you would have to go down in that ravine, but there's always a trail that takes you around there. So you have to be really savvy. If you have a feature on your GPS that shows terrain, a lot of people have that feature, or you can look on the map here. There's several options on the mapping, and you can see what the terrain is. You can see those gullies, so you could avoid that. Did that help a little bit?
that? Yeah. If you want to go to Silver Lake Park first,
Silver Lake, yeah.
I mean, do you just click on the area on the map? Or
Yep, go right to that area of the map, and then you can keep going in. Also, there's a satellite feature you see up in the corner.
Yep.
The satellite features are getting better and better all the time. You can zoom in as close as you want to go, and I mean, you can see individual trees. And that will be a real good idea if you want to kind of have an idea of what that area looks like before you even go there. So I highly recommend, before you go out and geocache, pick out the cache you like, and take a little time to look at the maps, just so you know what you're in for. If you're up to the challenge, or if it looks easy. Okay, there's over 5 million people doing this. I imagine the number is a whole lot more now. It's a great way to explore locations near and far. People do what I do, they hide these caches in places of historical interest or natural beauty. Letchworth Park is loaded with natural beauty, hidden beauty that you'll never see unless you go on a geocache, and it takes you there. Some of these places are so removed, but they're so beautiful. They're really worth the time and effort it takes to get there. Some of them can be challenging too. There's a feature on your cache page called attributes, and that tells you what you need. Do you need boots? Do you need a flashlight? Is there ticks there? Is there poison plants? It'll tell you on your page if the person that hid the cache did their homework and put this stuff on here. I really try to strive, a lot of us local people do, try to warn you what you're up against as far as what you're going to encounter. I mean, you kind of like to know if you should be out in shorts and you got to go through berry patches. That wouldn't be much fun. So if you see thorns listed on there, that's the day to wear long pants and hiking boots. So, and those are good things to know. Okay, when can you do it? Let's see. Anybody like to do things at night? You can do it at nighttime, you can do it at daytime, you can do it anytime. Because there are caches for every time of day. There's night caches just made, so you can go out at night. Nature Noggins, one of the people very famous for putting out evil TV, is hard to do night caches. He's got some of the best ones. The most fun I've ever had doing a cache probably was doing a night cache that he put out. You find these little fire tacks that the hunters use to put on trees to shine a flashlight, and oh, there's a fire tack over there, and then you go there, and then you stand around, and then, oh, there's a fire tack over there, and then you go over there. So you're following like little lightning bugs in the woods. That's what it reminds me of. And it's a lot of fun. Sometimes you solve puzzles out there. This Nature Noggins guy, I tell you, you got to be really up on your caching to do his caches. But if you ever do a Nature Noggins cache, I highly recommend it because it'll be something you always remember. He's got one that sticks in my mind called The Mysterious Disappearance of Ed Nog. Now that really just intrigues you all along by the title. But be ready to be a real cacher when you do this cache. And maybe you ought to save up your money for some gas money too. He takes you around all the way from, well, Arcade to Ellicottville and around almost to the border. And he gets you into some very beautiful places. So you can do it at night, day, whenever.
Excuse me, what about seasons?
Seasons, oh. Geocaching is only for summer and nice weather, right? We know, don't we? Did you, you're Mitch, right?
Yes,
You did my Silver Lake sea serpent cache, didn't you?
yes, so much.
In the winter,
Snowshoes.
in snowshoes. There's nothing more fun, folks, than to get out in the winter, put your cross-country skis or snowshoes on and go after a cache. Now look at the attributes, again, because it will tell you if the person's done a good job, whether it's winter accessible. Some caches get frozen in the winter, and they're impossible to get them out because they get ice and stuff. But that cache I'm speaking of, I love your log. They took pictures, you know, when you log your cache, and we're going to look at a cache page up here, when you log it, you can also include photographs. And I highly recommend if you've got your camera with you, take pictures of your adventure because the cache hider loves to sit there and see those pictures and read those cache logs. Don't be afraid to write a cache log. Now, are there people here that like to sit and write their adventures? Does anybody like to do that? You know, just write a story. Well, this is made for you because when you do find something and you have quite an adventure to get there, don't be afraid to write it down. Write it as long as you want to write it because the cache hider generally likes to see that because that shows, it's kind of a thank you to the person that hides the cache if you say, wow, they put a great log in there. I got to go on that journey with them. So that's why I encourage a little bit longer logs. Not everybody's a writer. Some people may put down TFTC, which really annoys cache hiders because it means thanks for the cache. It's just abbreviated. My theory is, if they take the time to go find my cache, they can come back to the comfort of their home and take the time to write me a log. But everybody's an individual, it's a free country, do it any way you want it. Here we go, Caching 101, the basics. So you're going to come out of here, you're going to have everything you need, and this is a really nice program. What does a cache look like? Well, I see a lot of weird things there. And I brought some things along here too that I have hidden in the past. Some of these are retired caches, and I'll show you what caches can look like. Now this is a pretty standard thing that we as cachers absolutely love to find, an ammo box. This is a waterproof container. You can put this underwater for a year and it'll be dry inside. The military makes these to put their ammunition in. This is a 30 cal ammo box. Now this was painted by a fellow up in Rochester. He has a little business. He buys these ammo cans by the skid load. He paints them up. He puts the words geocache. He does a nice job on these. So let's see what we got in here. They're hard to open sometimes. So you gotta really, well, that one's a little better. I like to take the lid off because then it doesn't get a little too heavy. Okay. You guys have any of these around your house with your keys hidden in them? This is the key holder, and also this is a cache. You can put on a guardrail. You find a lot of these when you're out traveling, and you say, "Oh, there's a geocache over there." Well, there's nothing there but a guardrail. Chances are you might see something like this. Inside, there's a pencil and a logbook. Pass that around if you want art. So that's a real inexpensive, fun geocache. When you're getting started, it's common for you to put a few things like that out, but as you get more into it, you like to have a bigger challenge and more creativity, hopefully. And let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, wait, now what's this? You guys know what this is? This is a piece of bark, isn't it? Well, a real good idea is if you find a tree that's losing its bark and it's full of woodpecker holes, how about gluing something on the back of it, putting that into the tree and having it blend in, and now you've got a cache right here that's hidden by a piece of bark that goes in a woodpecker hole. This is a retired cache from Racket Road. It was called Racket Road Ramble. And inside the cache is the pencil still, and the logbook of people's adventures. Most of the time when you find what we call a micro, that's what that is, you will see that people just sign their name. Here's another micro. And you wonder what that container is. This is a typical micro that we all use. Why do we use a matchstick holder? Well, because if you notice around between the top and the body of the matchstick holder, there's a rubber gasket. That makes it waterproof. Pill bottles like we have for medicine, that's not really a good thing because it's not totally waterproof. They'll last for a while, and if they're in a dry place where they don't see a lot of moisture, it'll work okay. It's like, say, inside of a building, behind a piece of wood or something. But we use matchstick containers a lot. They work really well, and they're like $1 at Walmart. So you got an inexpensive container. Here's one that's got a wire that I put on it. This is a retired cache. This might be Liscone's backyard, but I'm not sure. And what I did was I just put a little black hook in a little crevice of a tree, and I hung this in there. And funny thing was, somebody went to find it, and they asked me about how I got the mouse to live next to it. And I said, what do you mean the mouse? They took a picture, and a mouse had built a nest right up to it, and almost around the container, because they thought that was pretty cool, the place to perch, and put its home there. Oh, sadly, this too. Anybody think, what's this look like to most people? Don't be afraid to tell me. Looks like dog food, doesn't it? Well, that was meant to look like dog food. It's nothing but brown caulk, and inside is a matchstick container. And this is from a series of caches I put out. I'm sure Paul found this one. It was called Nature Calls, and I had a whole series of these caches. And I focused on different areas. I had one by a dairy farm, and I called it Nature Calls Dairy Air, which is kind of a play on words, because there was a big dairy farm there, and they had a manure lagoon. I wanted to test your ability to be able to hold your breath while looking for something. I still have one, Nature Calls number 2, at the sewer plant in Castile. It's right along the road. You don't have to trespass on the property. There's trees along there. I thought that was kind of funny. And so I have about 5 or 6 of these Nature Calls series. So we have a lot of fun doing these things. This is a typical matchstick with camouflage tape on it. And this time of year, the hunters like to start buying camouflage tape at Walmart or sporting goods stores and putting it on their rifles or whatever they're going to go hunt with. Well, it works really good too on putting it on containers. I think I've got some things here. Now, when I first started caching, I made all kinds of containers. Here's one here. This is PVC pipe. And I got the end, so it screws out, and I had this hidden in an old rotted willow tree. And it was a cache I had in cast iron. So there's another container you can make, and if you've got old plumbing parts, that works pretty good. Let's see. Probably a more common, I just retired this one here about a couple of months ago. You know what kind of container that is? I'm sure most of the ladies recognize Lock and Locks. See, it's got camouflage tape on it, so that makes it pretty good, because in a dark setting, like if it's stuffed in an old hollow log, it doesn't really stand out, you know, because it's kind of dark and it blends in. Remember, the one important feature of geocaching, especially in Letchworth Park, that cache should not be seen. This is a park, all you want to see is that. You don't want to see this sitting on the ground in Letchworth Park. That would be the wrong message right there. So a lock and lock like this, you just pop those 4 things up, take the lid off, and now you see this one has swag and a logbook in it. Now treasure, which some people call it, little kids love to call it hunting for treasure. And it's a great family activity, folks, because your kids beg you to do this once you've taken them out. I can't wait to take my grandson. He's going to love this. I know Alex is going to be addicted like I am. But when you find one, here's a logbook here. And inside the paper that's included in here, if you do it right, you include with your logbook what we call a cache sheet. Now just, if it happens that a muggle does stumble upon your cache and doesn't know what it is, you know, a lot of these have been blown up by police agencies because they see an ammo can sitting there and they say, oh my gosh, that's a bomb. And so they will detonate it. You know, well, it's just because the person didn't inform the people that own the property, shouldn't have been around a government building to begin with, ever, and they didn't probably have good identification. This is a cache site. Please read this. Now what this is telling you is what this is all about. And I'll just pass this around if people want to take a look at what a typical cache sheet is. We get that from the geocaching site. It's really quite informative. You know, it tells you why it's there. Asks you if you'd please put it back, because it's part of a worldwide game. So you see, those are varied containers. There's all kinds of ideas. We've got a fellow who goes by the name Snowman 257. He's a snowplow driver from Weathersfield. Probably the most devious hider that we know. He's got creativity that's boundless. And he comes up with some great geocaches and some beautiful hikes. His latest hike that he put in, his greatest cache, was called Serenity in the Sticks. And there's a little-known Wyoming County forest. It's up on Weathersfield Road, right near the wind towers. And he takes you back in there on quite an adventure in a piece of property that's owned by Wyoming County. And it's okay to hunt and fish and geocache in there. It's the only geocache in there. It doesn't need another one. This cache covers the whole area. It's a lot of fun. Inside this box, you can see there's just different things. There's somebody put a little picture frame with an alien on it. There's a deck of cards. You know, there's all kinds of goodies in there. And when you got kids along, they want something. But you have to teach them one of the biggest rules of geocaching. If you take something out, you put something back of equal or better value. This doesn't happen, folks. You're going to put in some beautiful things like a compass and some really nice stuff, and you'll go check it 6 months later, and it's full of McDonald's toys. Okay? And those don't hold up good in nature. You know, they get kind of moldy and damp, and you just clean them out and throw them away. So that's a little bit about the containers, and what you see, this is swag or treasure. We refer to it as swag, and one of the best swag people that we have is right here. He used to put the greatest stuff in there. You always wanted to be the first 1 or 2 persons to get to his cache because there was nice things in there. I have a little flashlight, it could be a compass, it could be anything really nice.
So you came along with your
Oh yeah. You know, people have personal ways of doing it. We all have, you've noticed that we use names, Nature Noggins, Dago Wallace, Paleo. You know, some people can use their real name if they choose to, but really we like to have a name that is describing ourselves in some way, where you might know who it is, but you're not really sure. Nature Noggins, who would that be? You know, it must be somebody that's really into nature. You know, and Nature Noggins is around here somewhere. I'm not going to point him out because he's very secretive, and he doesn't want you asking him for help and clues on his caches. So, and then we have names like Bluestone, and Paleo Man, and Gadget I mentioned already, and then there's Mitch, who I thought was a guy all along. But I found out different when I saw some pictures posted on one of my caches. So, you know, this is fun. Come up with your name, your geo name. It could be anything, doesn't matter. But you want to know what's in them? There's trackables. Now these things, I don't recommend these a lot. A lot of people are into it because the travel bug is attached to something. It could be a toy. It could be, like if I made an arrowhead, I could attach a travel tag to it and send it on its way. It's got a number on there that when you find it and you bring it back to your home, you can log it and see where it's from, where it's been, and then you can keep it on its journey. A lot of people don't. They collect them, they forget they're in their backpack, and they get lost. The coins are another thing. They're wonderful. You can track these coins. These coins are extremely well made. They're enamel coated, a lot of them. A lot of them have missions, and they're beautiful things. There's a POW coin. This is absolutely gorgeous, MIA POW. That does get around. Some people do respect that one and try to move it. And the one at the bottom, I've never seen that, but that reminds me of a container I do see a lot of times. It's a little film canister, and it's got a plastic garbage bag in it. And it's called a CITO or a CITO container. If you take that out, what your mission is when you're out caching, if you see garbage, you know, pop cans, papers, anything when you're out, you try to pick that up, because we try to be stewards of nature. You know, we don't want to walk in the woods and see somebody's gum wrappers and cigarette butts and all that stuff. We just want to see the woods as nature made it. So one of the missions of true geocachers is to clean up. Now, some places are terrible, so full of trash. It would take 1,000 geocachers 100 days to clean them out. But I don't know why people would put a cache there in the first place. But you know, if you do your little part, try to take out stuff like that, it really helps. Okay, the types, you know, this doesn't really cover all of the types of hides there are, but the traditional can be like these ammo boxes, and all these things that you've seen here are traditional styles. The multi is when there is more than one location you're going to visit. Now, I've just put one out where you start out at a location, then you have to get some coordinates, you find them somewhere in that area, and then you move to another location. Then you look for some more coordinates that are hidden, maybe a little different. And you may go through a beautiful walk through an open forest, and then you come to another place where GPS starts counting down. It'll go down. If you're really in a good spot, you might get 10-foot accuracy. That's pretty good to see that. And you're going to get there and you're going to look around. And when you get to a place, how do you find coordinates or geocache? Anybody have any ideas? Well, what you do is you look for what we call as a geospot. Where would you hide something? What caught your eye when you got in that area? And typically, if it caught your eye, it caught the hider's eye too. And they may have something tucked away there that you can locate. I try to make sure that most of my stuff is, not being shown, but if you get the right angle, you can see it. That's a good way to hide things. Mystery caches, we talked about those. Sometimes we have a cache hider in Castile. He goes by the name Wolf Creek. He is famous for some of the most difficult puzzles. I don't know how he comes up with all these things. But once you get those puzzles solved, then you get coordinates. I don't even want to get started at some of the types of puzzles he's taken us through. But it's a lot of fun. You use the internet to do a lot of this. There's also earth caches. These are types of events and things like that. A mega event is held every year down at Allegheny State Park where they get probably 500 geocachers or more at this, where everybody gathers together. It's a lot of fun. An event cache could be anything where you just want to get a group together and have a special day of geocaching that day. You might have a breakfast. You might decide to go and do a series of caches in the area. That would be an event. Or you might have a reason to get together other than that. And the cache in and trash out, that's the CITO or CITO. So those are some events.
Are there any big local events around here that they hold off?
Yeah, we have a really nice one that's sponsored by Letchworth Park, and I do want to put a word in, thank Mr. Roland Beck, because he's the park manager, and he encourages geocaching here in Letchworth Park. He kind of really, when he got here as a park manager, he brought that with him. And it was already here, but he kind of promoted it. So I really want to thank Roland too, and I think we all do. He's a very busy man, and I get very impatient waiting sometimes for him to have time to look at maybe the cache I want to put out, because he's got a lot more to do than look at geocache pages. But he does this service too for everybody. And when Mr. Beck looks at a cache page, he analyzes it, whether it's family friendly, because this is all about being a family place here. We don't want to take somebody in a dangerous place and then have an unfortunate situation, somebody slide down a bank and break a leg or somebody get hurt. So he makes sure that the caches are all really well done and family friendly. So, and we do have this one event in the fall. It's the weekend before the Columbus Day weekend, where they have the arts and crafts show up here on the north end. We have a building reserved, the South Shelter, and they have a gathering of geocachers. They come from Canada and all over Pennsylvania, Ohio, and they get together for a day of fun geocaching. Usually there's a ton of food there. I like to go for the food. And we just have a lot of fun visiting with other cachers. So you're going to find, if you become a cacher, that you love to talk with other geocachers about this. And my poor wife has had to listen to this for the last 6 years. But she's made some friends, too, with the other wives that are really disgusted listening to it, too. So, okay, who hides them? Well, everybody here can do it. I highly advise one thing. If you're going to be a cache hider, go out and find a few first. Don't find just like lamb skirt micros, the easy stuff. Go out and find a few challenging things. Get an idea of what's out there, and then come up with your own idea and put that out. So many times a new cacher is so excited to be a geocacher, they found some caches that they want to go and put their own out immediately with only 4 finds to their credit. Well, sometimes they do all right, but other times they put out something that really shouldn't have been put out, and they really should take time to think about it. So I advise people to cache a little bit before you put your own out. I know, is there anybody here thinking that they want to become a geocacher and do this? Anybody here? I think this fellow over here said he did. He'd probably be a good one. But if you do decide, really do take time. It says, you can read the print there. It's like they said, find at least 20. I say find even more. Have some fun finding them and then put your own out. Get some good ideas. Okay, getting started. This is really the procedure you go through. Go to geocaching.com. You register for an account. It's free unless you choose a premium membership. Then you click an area that says hide and seek, and then you're going to put your zip code in, or say you're going to go to Florida, and you know the zip code of the area you're going. put that in, and you can find out what geocaches are hidden in that area, and then you can pick and choose the ones you want to go to, and you can plug them into your GPS on your keypad. So, you know, it doesn't matter where you're going. You can put that zip code in, and you can find out where all the caches are. Okay, this is an important part right here, because a lot of people find them, but they don't really know what to do. So when you do find one, the first thing you should do is find the logbook. That's that piece right here. And you can see a logbook can be anything, like this. See, there's names in here. People have signed this logbook. Sign your name in there, your geo name, put the date on there. And if you feel motivated to put a comment, like, great cache, I had a great time, beautiful hike, scenery is beautiful, feel free to do that. You know, it's your time to write something. Once you've done that, look through the swag. If you've got a bag with you full of goodies that you want to maybe use for trade, then you might find something in there and then trade something out. Once you're done doing that, then put everything back together, you know, make it look good, then hide it. There's a certain way to hide things. As good as or better. Now, if you see a cache sitting out on top of the ground with a stone sitting on the top of it, that's not a really good hide. A muggle can find this. So, I would say hide that one better. Maybe put it behind the tree and have a piece of bark over it. Anything just to make it so it's not sticking out. Because again, we don't want to look out here in nature and see canisters. It looks like garbage. You don't want that. You want to have this stuff hidden so that it doesn't draw attention. Okay, so that's a good thing. Hide it good as or better. You know, share any photographs, but when you get home, then it's really a good idea, if you have the time, to go back on the site, find the geocache on the website that you just found, and then you log it online, and that gives the cache owner an account. Like, it's very valuable to do this because, say you didn't find it, okay? The cache owner would say, I wonder why you didn't find it. Then 3 more people go, and they don't find it. Now this is throwing up a red flag. Maybe my cache is missing. Maybe somebody discovered it and ran off with it. So your notes really are very valuable to the person that owns that cache. I really think that's very important to know that. So remember, you know, log your online cache when you get time. Some people, there's a guy around here right now that was just starting to log his caches from way back in 2003 and 4. And a lot of those don't even exist anymore, but he's logging them. Okay, this is just tips. I'm sure you all saw the cache sheet there. What there was on there was, I talked about the difficulty rating. You know, look at that. Look at the terrain. You know, look at all those other things. We kind of went over this. Now, see, you can use your smartphone. Now, they're saying on their website that you can buy this app for $9.99 USD. Now, I think it's free on a lot of phones now. I think a lot of phones come with a navigational app that you can put coordinates in. But I guess if you buy their app, you get a little more. You can see what you're getting there. You're getting difficulty, terrain. Also on the cache page, you'll notice the date that it was published, so you'll know how long it's been out there. There's a lot of really good information on a cache page. So, you know, take the time to look at that. Okay, and we talked about CETO. This is where you can get a group together. We did one at Beaver Meadow Audubon Center up in North Java one time. There was an old farm dump in the woods, and all of us got together as a CETO event, and we cleaned that farm dump up. We pulled every little piece of glass we could find out of the ground. We had a dumpster filled and stuff all around it, stacked up, metal, glass, all this stuff. But we cleaned that spot as geocachers, giving back, because the Audubon Center is just a beautiful place. You don't want to walk up on a dump full of metal and glass. You just want to see beautiful nature. And you know, that was a geocaching function. And you can actually get, I think you can get a smiley for that, can't you? You know? People are worried about smileys, remember. Smiley's that yellow face that says, found it. That's a number. Okay, we're not going to bore you with this. I just want you to know that, how did this all get started? Well, it was during the Carter administration where he decided to allow consumers access to these military satellites, GPS. So he had them, it's called midnight selective availability. The intentional degrading was turned off. In other words, it was scrambled. The signals were scrambled for people before that. Once it was switched on, then people could take a handheld device and they could kind of somewhat accurately navigate, because they're always worried that somebody would put a bomb somewhere, and or else hide drugs and give their friends, oh, it's at this set of coordinates over here. I mean, they could still do that, but I guess they knew what was coming. They knew that people were going to use GPSs in cars. That's a huge industry. Everybody's got a GPS now in their car. And new cars come with them in. So this was thought of 12 years ago, and I'm sure there was marketing behind it. There always is. And the first geocache was hidden one day after this was turned on by a man named Dave Ulmer. Now it was called a stash hunt then. The term geocaching didn't really become a term until, let's see, it tells here somewhere, where was that? May 30th of that year. So it took about 28 days, and this Matt Stump, he coins the term geocaching. That was the first use of the word geocaching. Anyway, that's a little bit of a history outline. There's so much to read there. I don't want to spend too much time, because that's something you can research yourself if you really are interested in the history part of it. Okay, what does GPS mean? Well, there it is, Global Positioning System. And now we're going to get some basics. What is it? Well, you've got satellites. Now when I look at my GPS here, and I look on the face here, I can see right here the sky above me. And it shows the position of all the satellites right now above our heads. And it also shows the strength that I'm receiving them. I'm standing in here and I'm getting about 30 to 33 foot accuracy inside a building. That's pretty good. And we've got over the top of us right now, right directly overhead, 3 satellites. And that's all you need to lock in on a position, but 4 is better. So the coordinates, let me get my glasses here, of where we're standing here, within an accuracy of around 30 to 40 feet. The coordinates of this location where we stand are set north 42 degrees, 35.360, west 078 degrees, 00.753. Okay, so if I was to give those coordinates to somebody 100 miles from here and said, go there, well, in a couple hours we'd see them here, because that would get you exactly in that spot, because the satellites will track that location. There are very many types of GPSs. Like some people do use their phones, but those are some examples. That's not all of them. It kind of shows the way that they triangulate and that the way the signals kind of come to one person. You can see them right there. All those satellites are beaming down the connection and locating you. When all the points hit at the same place, that's your location. So, what do you say we go on a geocache? You all ready to go? Okay. I've got a really nice cache here that Wallace owns. It's called the Escape from John Van Syke. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to end up our talk today by going on an actual geocache. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about this geocache a little bit first, and then we're going to take a journey. It's a true story. Has anybody here ever read the book that Mary Jemison wrote about her, or was written about her life? Anybody else here read it? Okay, so you probably remember at some point in the book, I think John's read it once, where she was pursued by a Dutchman. Do you ever remember reading that point? Well, as she lived in the village, I think it was Little Beardstown, her daughters were living there, and she one day was leaving the daughter's cabin to go out and work. I'm just kind of throwing this out at you. And she noticed that there was a certain gentleman, he was a Dutchman named John Van Syke, following her. Now, he was known to steal native captives, the people that were captured by the Native Americans, and hurry them off to Fort Niagara and trade them in for bounty money. This is what he was doing. So he'd hang around these villages until he could find the captives, and then he would try to find the time to steal one. So I thought, what a great cache that would make for Letchworth Park, because, well, one of the cabins is right up here at the council grounds. It was her daughter's cabin. Not the one probably in the story, because those were all burned by Sullivan's troops. But she did move down the valley to the Gardo Valley, and she put new houses up there. There was some existing cabins, and if you know the book, then you know what I'm talking about. But she did build a cabin, and it's up there on the council grounds, and it was for Nancy, her second oldest daughter. So the geocache that I put in place kind of takes you on this journey of escape. What we're going to do is we're going to take this journey, and you're going to see the sights along the way. Here's the cache page, okay? This was hidden in 2010, 625. It's a difficulty 4. Now that's telling you something there, okay? That's not the terrain, that's the difficulty. That means that Mary Jemison, or Degawanas, did a good job hiding things along the way because she didn't want John Van Slyke to find her. She wanted to escape him. So the terrain is a 2, and that's only because you have to walk uphill. All of this is on very nice, open, old roads and paths. And you can see that there's the coordinates to get you started. And what we're going to do is we're going to start the journey. Okay. And I'm going to read it to you. Here's the story of my journey. I had just left my daughter's cabin and I was making my way out to work in the cornfields when I spied a certain Dutchman named John Van Slyke. He was watching me carefully, and this made me nervous because I had heard a rumor that he wanted to capture me and take me to the fort at Niagara, where he would exchange me for some bounty money that was offered to anyone that would bring in Indian captives. I had become quite happy in my situation, so I was determined to stay with my Indian family, as they are the only family I now have. As he approached me, I ran to the forest and hid behind a pine tree that was over a small bank. This is the cabin we were just imagining. She left this cabin. And here's that small bank that she went over, and she hid. See in the center of the picture? There's a pine tree right there. She got crouched down low behind the pine tree and kind of just tried to stay out of sight, but kept pursuing. He began to run after me, but I was able to get a little distance between us. I stayed low to the ground, and once I saw him move a ways off, I ran up a little hill quite a ways on the old wagon road. I passed through a small tunnel and continued my journey up the road until I came to a Y in the road. It is near here where I left some information that would help me find my way back if I became lost. Ah, there's the tunnel. Now these are sights that you will see if you take Trail 2 in Letchworth Park. I highly, highly recommend taking Trail 2. It's a beautiful place to walk. Okay. Oh, there's the Y in the road. So let's go to the next slide. And in this area here, she's got something hidden. Now there's a very fun story I could share here about a person that found what was hidden here and didn't realize what was hidden until they looked in their hand and they saw it and they threw it because it startled them. I'm not mentioning names, and I guess the rest of the time for a while was spent looking for the cap of the container because in the excitement of like throwing it, it flew into the weeds and it took a while to recover it. So let's see what happened next. So something was hidden here. Once I hid the clue, I decided I would go right at the Y, and I traveled in this direction until I found an old gate along the edge of some property. I left another bit of information hidden there. I made this a little harder to find, and only a good eye is needed to find it. This is the location where she hid the next clue. I can see the coordinates in this picture. Can you see them? Anybody see the coordinates hidden in this picture? They're very, very cleverly hidden. But that right there is the edge of Letchworth State Park right here. And that gate is what is, shows us where it's the border. I looked to the left and I saw a nice trail heading into the forest, and there were some strange yellow marks on the trees that I chose to follow. The area of the forest was beautiful, and I enjoyed walking here, but I kept looking over my shoulder to see if John Van Slyke was following me. I decided to hide another clue here, and I made sure that it was well hidden. I didn't hide this one as low as the others because I wanted to make sure John Van Slyke didn't find the clues and follow my path. In this picture is what she hid. I can see it. Yeah, it looks good. I took these pictures just about a week ago. I came here in the evening. The sun was set in about an hour, so it kind of gave an eerie glow to the forest. I kind of liked this, that's why I shot these pictures. So where in here would she hide something? Now remember, there's a key piece of information here. Didn't hide it as low as the others. So you're thinking, okay, wonder what she means by that. Well, you have to go there and find out. As you make your journey through the woods, here are some sights you may see along the way. I don't know what they are. Stephanie, do you know what those are? They're absolutely beautiful. This is what you typically might see as you walk along the forest trails. I love things like this, and right now with all the moisture, we're getting a lot of mushrooms and things coming up. It's a little fuzzy, sorry about that, but this is a typical path in Trail 2 that you would take, and this is part of the escape route here. Okay, I then got back on the path where there were some more yellow marks on the trees, and I wandered over the edge of a long, narrow valley and admired the view. I decided to hide one more clue here in a place that I was sure I could find again. What a beautiful place. And in this picture is the area where she hid her last clue before she hit the final object. Now, can you see this beautiful valley here? This is the old Erie Reservoir. And to just give you a real brief description, this was hand dug by the people who put the railroads in the area here. This is a railroad cut that goes 1/2 mile through the woods up along Trail 2. It's a fabulous thing when you think about how they took these slip scrapes and they shoveled, and the dirt was pulled up the bank, and you can see when you're up there where they piled it on the bank facing towards the highway. What had happened, I was told, why the railroad removed their tracks from here, they were only here a few short years when the Erie Railroad came in, was that because everything had been cut down, to build the high bridge, all the trees were gone, all the area was open, that one of the engineers I talked to said he believes that the railroad had a lot of problems keeping snow out of this ditch. When it would blow across from the west, it would fill that ditch with snow. And because of that, they couldn't get the trains through. They'd have to shovel and plow. And it was a very, we had bad winters back then, I'm sure, just like we've had them in the past. So that's a beautiful sight there, and you're going to see that if you go on the escape. I had now traveled a great distance, and I was positive I was safe. So I went to one final place to hide and wait for a while to make sure the coast was clear for me to return home. I found a really nice place on a small hill in the woods where I could see if anyone was coming up the road in search of me. I liked the place so much that I planted some really beautiful flowers in the area. I stayed here a couple of days, and I left a medium-sized container very well hidden, and I only knew where this location was. This is the spot right here. What a beautiful place, isn't it? So green. We're going to be thinking about that in about 4 months probably. Well, she hid the final object here. Now, when this cache was placed, in that area you see near the log, there's a lot of foxglove growing there. It doesn't grow all year round, of course. It's only around June or so. But if you do this geocache and you get here in June and early July, you'll probably see some beautiful foxglove growing in the area. So it's a wonderful plant. Digitalis. Okay, let's see what we got. Do you think you can find this container? If you do and open it and see something you want, there is only one rule to follow. If you take something out, please put something back in its place. I have also left some paper in here. And I would really appreciate a note from you. And be sure to sign your name so I know who visited my secret place. Peace be with you. While you are in the area, you also may encounter some other beautiful scenes around there. Anybody know what that is? That's the dam in the woods, just a little ways from Lake 5 with this cache. This is the railroad cut. And once they decided to abandon the tracks there, they used large blocks of stone, and they built a dam across there, and they held water back, and they piped it down to the high bridge. The valve for this is still right there where you can see it in the ground. It's got a cover over it, and this is quite a place. It's, of course, all green and grown up. And that's a view from up above, seeing it. It's not holding water now because it washed out around the left side. There's soft gravel over there, and water got up and washed it out there in the high water times. Now you have all the knowledge you need to begin your adventures of geocaching. I hope you enjoy it. And thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'd like to entertain them, but you're on your own to go and find a geocache tonight. Thank you.